If you think boundaries are your ability to tell others what they can and cannot do in your space, you're completely in the wrong and you've already crossed the line. And I learned this lesson the hard way because I had a complete misunderstanding of what boundaries are. See, a boundary is where you end, but it has nothing to do with another person. If I have a neighbor that has a fence, I know where my property line ends and where theirs begins. But once I step over onto their property, it's no longer my property, it's theirs. And I don't get to tell them what they can or can't do on their property. I'm going to tell on myself a little bit. I have a gorgeous, and I mean gorgeous, girlfriend. She's beautiful, she models, she does a lot of photos. Some of them are, very on the edge of sensual, beautiful, but, appropriate. Not anything that your mom wouldn't want to see. But I started telling her, hey, you are not respecting me with these photos. This is where I went wrong. And they're causing me harm over here and discomfort. And I want you to stop doing those or stop posting those because I get uncomfortable. Oh man, that was not the right move. And not because she got mad at me, which she did, rightfully so, but because I was out of line by even asking her to do anything with her property in any way. See, that's the power of protectors and insecurities, is they feel fully morally righteous in their demands. And they tell others what they can and can't do so that you can feel safe. That's not a boundary. That's control, masked as a boundary. And when you start controlling other people, that's not safety. That's not friendly. That's not loving. That's coming from fear. Because you're afraid of what that might mean for you if they act the way they act, and that has an impact on you. Now, that doesn't mean you're not affected. That doesn't mean you're not triggered. It doesn't mean it doesn't bring something up in you. But you have no right to tell them what they can and cannot do in their own space. All you can do is decide if you want to stay with that or not, or if you align with that or not. But you don't get to say you can't do that, because that's their job. That's their responsibility. And the moment you step over and start controlling, now you're just dictating what they do. And you're controlling not only your life, but theirs. And that's completely unfair. That's not, that's not an adult. That comes from insecurity. And I don't care how you mask it. You may say, oh, but she doesn't get to disrespect me like that. I disagree. Because you're the one that's interpreting it as disrespect. You're the one that's determining what you think she can and can't do. Now, I'm not saying you can't feel what you're feeling, but the moment you try to control her or tell her or him what he can or she can or cannot do, well, that's where you cross the line. That's where it's no longer a boundary. And so you really have to ask yourself, what are you stating here? Are you stating that you have discomfort with what they're doing? Are you stating that you might not like it? And, if you're just doing that and you're saying, hey, I'm voicing something I feel in me when you do that, and there's impact over here, that's fine, as long as you don't make it their responsibility to make you feel safe. So this is the distinction between a boundary and control, is that a boundary is saying, I can handle this to this point. This is my edge. This is my property line. But beyond that, I don't really feel comfortable there. I can voice that and stay within my boundaries. But the moment I come over onto your property and say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're disrespecting me, well, that's control. And anything that you use as a tool to help you gain control is manipulation. And so it's not healthy, guys. And I know from my own experience, and I'm telling on myself here, because this is a pattern and behavior in my life that isn't healthy, and I don't want to keep it anymore. And so I tell on myself not to just put myself out there and say the right things and then do nothing about it. It's because I have an inner commitment to change the pattern. Awareness is the first step in transformation. So when you know something, that's great. Now you know it's there. Acceptance is the second step in transformation. So you don't have to shame yourself for doing what you did. You don't have to make yourself wrong. You don't have to fight it and resist it and pretend it's not there. If something affects you, it affects you. That's fine. Awareness is the first step. Acceptance is the second step. And acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It just means that you acknowledge it's there. The third step is adaptation. And this is where people get lost. Instead of changing, they make it the responsibility of their partner to change. And it's not your partner's job. They're already doing their job. So the moment you step over there, like I said, and start dictating what they can and can't do, well, you've crossed the line. And you've no longer operated from a boundary, you've operated from that control. So really sit with that. That might be hard hitting for some of you. I don't want my partner to disrespect me. But who's defining it as disrespect? You are. And even if it did feel uncomfortable for you, you don't get to tell them what they can and can't do. That's not your job. So recognize the difference between a boundary that's healthy, that says, I might not like that, and I get to choose whether I stay in that or not, versus I'm going to stop you from doing things that make me uncomfortable. Huge difference. Huge amount of difference in the way they show up and how they're experienced. And man, I didn't do a good job this week, I'll tell you. I have a gorgeous girlfriend, like I say. Sometimes I do really well, and sometimes I really mess up. But I don't mess up in the form of, I'm shameful because I messed up. I mess up and I acknowledge that I messed up, and then I try to correct it in myself, not her. And so my commitment is to do my work in here so that no matter what she does out there, it may have impact, but I don't tell her she can't do that. That's not fair. And so I've had to clean some things up, and you might have to clean some things up, but that's okay. You're learning. And as you learn, you're going to grow and get bigger and stronger and be able to handle a lot more. And so if this speaks to you, drop a comment. What are you tackling as a boundary in you today? And if you need help with this, go check out my program at my12journeys.com and let us show you a framework that's going to help you to grow through this. Appreciate you. Go make it a giant day, and I'll see you in the next video.